Hey everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how you can create step by step for yourself at home a scene like this gorgeous fall landscape. We're going to paint this today in acrylic paint. I'm going to explain the techniques, I'm going to explain the color mixes, the tools that I'm using, everything that you need to know. So if you want to create this for yourself, you can. If you're here for the live stream, I want to welcome you and say I so appreciate you coming in. Enjoy chatting, enjoy meeting each other. If you have a question, remember to put it all in caps. That'll help our moderators find it. If there's a link or a resource that they can share with you that will answer your question, they will. If there's a question they can help answer, but also your question might get asked of me in the live show. But we got to be able to see it, and we promise we won't think you're yelling at us in any way. To help me do this is my husband, John.
Hello.
He's the voice that you're going to hear in the background. And he switches the cameras and makes sure that the robot cameras are pointing at everything and that the sound is working and that everything is going on in our shows. And he's also the one that they pass the questions to that you might get answered live. But remember, the moderators are there to help you find resources. I've done more than 1,000 paintings. So at this point, sometimes I even forgot when I painted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a deep free resource of art education that you can access anytime. Let's talk about today's materials. I am painting on a 9x12 canvas surface. Over here, I have my paint out. And you'll see there's a couple duplicates, but I will explain why. I'm going to be using my Mars Black, my Phthalo Blue, Phthalo Green, Burnt Sienna, a little quinacridone magenta, Cad Red medium. You can use hue. Cad Yellow medium, again, you can use hue. And I always mention that because cadmium can be a very expensive pigment in the professional lines. So just knowing that hue is okay or free. Now they call them cadmium hue or cadmium free. Doesn't really matter the brand. Just is a more economical option. Very similar color. Dioxazine purple, ultramarine blue, and then I have another little bit of Cad Red and Cad Yellow, and that's so I can make an orange to the side. On a fall painting, it can be a good idea to have a secondary little bit of orange, so you can mix up and down mixes and get lots of variance in your browns and be really playful with your greens. I also have some titanium white in the center. I may, for blending or other things, or depending on how dry my studio is today, use gloss glazing liquid. Such a weird name for a product that does something almost completely different, which is slow drying. It slows down the drying time of your paint. So if your acrylic's drying on you too fast and you're having trouble blending, this can be a product that really helps you. This company is the only one that I'm recommending for this type of product because it's the only one that's really beginner friendly. And then it's also called an extender. In other words, so what this is that you can add a little bit of paint to your slow drying glazing liquid. Whereas with a regular slow drying agent, you have to have very specific mixes. So it's super forgiving and you can glaze with it. I like it.
This pertains to a question Kim just asked.
Oh, happy to answer.
Okay. When I started painting, Kim said she started using thick golden heavy body paint, but she was thinking about switching to the medium body paint by Liquitex.
Well, so you might want to consider if you feel like the weight of the golden is too much and you want to switch to something more fluid, try a soft body in any of the lines. The difference between a heavy body paint and a soft body paint is a lot of times the brushability. The paint is self-leveling. It's a little smoother, and a lot of times you may find that preferable. I haven't tested the product that you're mentioning from Liquitex. So what I'm going to do is I like people who've had experience with it. If you've used it, please put up in the comments, please put up in the chat your experience with that. I have not had an overall great experience with Liquitex as a company. But again, I haven't used anything in a while, and I think the people using it give the best reviews. Does that make sense?
And they're under new management now, aren't they?
And they're under new management, so things are changing. So we may look at them again as a brand.
We always like to every time there's an opportunity, revisit the products out there.
And I always encourage my students to share their experiences with any paint or product companies and groups and online here in chats, because us talking to each other is what makes us informed consumers and make sure we buy the best stuff that we can buy with our hard-earned money, right?
Yes.
So I do like that. But I can say overall, a more soft-body paint might be something that you prefer. It's totally good. Okay, I am going to be doing steps, which means there will be a mini book, 7 to 10 days. A mini book is a written out instructional guide that matches the video and has chapters in it. Those chapters are time stamped into the video. And that means, like, if you're going along and you stop and you want to come back, you can find your place again easily. And also, if you want to wait for the resource of the written out book, that can be that extra little edge that you need to level up your painting experience. So those are all there. It's free, but it takes us a minute to get it out. But it's free.
It's free.
It's free. So, I mean, you got to download it or print it out. There's some expense there, but you're not getting one from us.
You
so
ready
I'm very
for a
proud of
step?
that. I am. I think we need a step. So whenever I look at a landscape painting, I start to break down in my head, how do I want to construct that? What will get me the best result? And looking at this, I've decided I want a certain kind of underpainting here before I even begin sketching anything in. An underpainting applies a coat of paint to the canvas, generally a thin one or a not too resolved one, so that when we layer up the acrylic, as we build up layers, we get an even better result. I'm going to take a big brush. This is a number 30 Bright, short-handled. It's a little wonky in the ferrule. You can glue those down if they ever get loose for you like this. I've got to actually have John C.A. glue.
It's sometimes a little
for me.
crimpery action, so if you, like, a little pair of pliers can actually do that too.
Yeah, I'm going to actually give this to him later to tighten back up.
I got the brush fixing skills.
But I've got some other big brushes here, and so we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I've got a mister. I'm going to do a thing. I'm going to vary. This is a micro mister. It doesn't do big droplets. I'm going to apply just a little bit of mist. And this is because the canvases lately have been a little bit dry. Thirsty is even a word for it, where it feels like they're either resisting the paint or they are just sucking up the paint. And that is not every time. So if your canvases have been great lately, don't worry about this. But if you're having that problem, this might be something that helps you. I'm going to begin by taking a little bit of my phthalo blue and a little bit of my ultramarine blue. I like mixing them together. And a lot of my titanium white. I'm going to come up to the top of the surface here. And again, this is a very, not too worried about it, loose painting up at the top. Right? Because we are really only seeing stuff peek through the trees. I might get a little more white here and make sure that what's in the center is just fairly light. And you can see I'm not being very picky. I'm on the edge of my brush to blend it out. And I am wiping out. I'm going to, as I come down, I'm going to be switching into kind of a brown and orange, just a darker color to build up on. So I can take a little bit of my burnt sienna and a little bit of my black. And I'm going to begin to bring this color down. And you can see, not precious about it. Looks real messy at first. Doesn't seem like it could possibly work out. It will. You'll have to trust me. If you're not sure if I can do this, you can go check some of the other paintings and have the other students let you know, yeah, this stuff works. But when you're real new, sometimes a messy beginning is just what you need. I'm going to bring that up here a little bit, blend it up. And the blending isn't that particular at this stage. I may come in and through here, I'm going to add just a little bit of yellow. This is just kind of an undertone. And it'll go a little green. I'm not worried about it. It's just a dark color. Notice that it's streaky, it's messy, and that's okay. Now, if you ever want to blend that out, I'm going to throw this brush out because it's making me super unhappy. That's how I feel about it. So what was happening there is the brush was just not performing really well. And when that happens to me, I just let it go.
There's a whole bushel of them here.
I have a lot of brushes, and I'm just going to get a different one. And I'm just going to blend that out. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be pricey. I'm going to use a big hog brush to sort of soften this out.
There was a good question.
And you can see if you go over a wet area with a big dry brush, it can diffuse or soften the background. Again, not perfect here. It's a generalized thing, and you don't have to worry about it very much.
So many good questions here.
So many good questions. Let's give them a good answer.
Okay, so I'm going to ask both of them at the same time because
Okay.
they're relevant.
I'm going to answer both of them at the same time.
Lily asks, is there a reason for how you place paint on the palette? What color next to what color? And Art Play asks, how do you keep the acrylic from drying after spreading it thin like that on the palette? I use some Rotec, I think, paints, and I can only mix it once before it dries almost instantly on the palette.
So acrylic dries real fast. Some acrylic brands will dry a little faster than other acrylic brands. I'm using a thing here called a wet palette, which is a soaked piece of paper and a sponge underneath, right? And I can put a lid on it, and that little bit of moisture here helps. I have misters nearby, so if I have to mist my paint to keep it from curing or drying on me, and I also have the gloss glazing liquid. I can, if that's not enough, add a humidifier next to my palette. If you keep the humidity about 40% near your palette, the paint will slow down on how fast it dries. I do put paint out on my canvas based on what colors I know I'm mixing and just convenience for later on. Okay, so this hot mess, this messy bit, and notice this is messy. So if you have a messy canvas like I do, you're doing great. You're doing exactly right. Let's take a picture of our messy canvas and come back and show you how this mess becomes a really beautiful painting.
Is this a step?
It's a step. Step. So now what's great about these is we capture these timestamps as we go. And then when we come back, we put them in on YouTube. Unfortunately, not on Facebook. On YouTube, that actually creates a template in the bar. So when you drag your cursor over the bar, or your finger, or whatever you're painting from, it will let you know what step you're on. And you can also go into the description and find that step, click it. I also try to put it in the comments. You can click it and it'll take you right to that time point. It's a really cool feature. And as a teacher, I really appreciate it. All right. I really want this to be dry. For the next part to work, you don't want the paint to underbind, and I'm feeling like it's a little wet, so I'm going to hit it extra. And John can tell you about if you missed it, there was a really cool bird hop, and John can tell you about that while I dry this canvas.
Oh, I can. That's right. So, how to tell you about the bird hop? So I think it was, they slowed into one day there. I think it was Friday. Cinnamon and her mom, Ginger Cook, who also teaches on YouTube, did a thing called a hop. And what a hop is, it's where YouTubers get together and they do videos back to back to back. So that in this example, Cinnamon and her mom each painted 3 birds back to back, starting at about 1 in the afternoon, or maybe it was earlier than that. I think they may have started earlier in the morning, but. Cinnamon painted a painting, and then Ginger painted a painting, and then Cinnamon painted a painting, and everybody hopped from one video to the next, and they did that all day.
So that's still there. The paintings are only 45 minutes long because we timed, because we do these big ones, we wanted to give you guys some short projects you could do. And those are all there for you guys to watch on replay, and we are going to be doing it again. It's confirmed September 11th, starting at 1. We're going to do that. And we did take all your suggestions. There will be a break between classes because we recognize that might have felt a little frantic. And we were painting along. But we so love that you guys came. I'm going to take a little bit of my red into my yellow, and I'm going to start to mix an orange. Right? I want an orange on my canvas. I can use this orange to tone green, to do so much. I want a little more yellow than red. I used to say it's going to be like 2 parts yellow to 1 part red, but what I'm really meaning is equal amounts. So not that you did a teaspoon, but if you would have 2 teaspoons to 1 teaspoon, or 1 ploop to 2 ploops, whatever your measurement is. You can see here as I pull it back how the wet canvas is holding that all together. And then I can wipe my nice little palette knife off on my handy dandy paper towel, which is nearby, which really makes that super easy. So we've got this nice orange. If you look here, and I will kind of sketch some things out, but you'll notice that there's a little area where there's like highlights, and then it pulls gray and orange here through the sides, and we've got to capture that. One of the things that can help us do that is if we pre-sketching the major architecture of the painting. Okay? So, not every little detail, but some of the details will help us. If you need help doing this, there is a traceable and also a grid map. You pick what is your favorite. I'm going to demo this in because recently I've been asked to do more freehand drawing just for those that are trying to learn how to do that. So I'm going to make sure that I do that for you guys. I'm going to use a white pencil. Last time we did paint, but some of you guys had some trouble covering that paint. So now we're going to use watercolor pencil because it'll go away. We're going to mark our canvas in half and half. So if a canvas is 12 inches across, it's going to be marked in half at the 6-inch mark. I'm going to use a T-square to create those dividing lines. Right? That watercolor pencil will disappear into my paint. It's not permanent and it won't create resistance issues like if you had a grease pencil, which I wouldn't want to use. Like I wouldn't want to use Prismacolor. Right? You want watercolor, or you could use kids chalk if you've got any little kids chalk hanging around. I was thinking I'm going to buy some more soon and sharpen a bunch of it up to have around. But this lets me know where my positioning is. This is the 4.5-inch mark, and this is the 6-inch mark. This will help me explain to you where I'm putting my marks so you can follow along. I'm going to take a little bit of my orange and my brown over here. I want to be able to see my mark, but I don't want it to be too strong in this particular canvas. You can see I'm making it there. Over here towards this corner, I'm going to come in. I'm going to begin a shoreline. We need to know where our basic shoreline is. And about, 2 inches over and 1.5 inches down, I'm going to come here. And this is going to be a little bit of a shoreline that speaks about trees that we've got going. Right? Now we know we're going to have a big tree that comes out this way, but we don't need to draw him at all yet. I'm going to come along above the 4.5-inch space. Right? I've got trees here, so I don't have to take this line all the way out. What do I want to know? I'm wanting to know where my shoreline is. Actually, this comes past my halfway mark here. I'm going to bring a little embankment up. And a little bit over here is where the waterfall is. So if this is the halfway line, I raised my shoreline up too much. I'm going to bring it down.
You can make adjustments, though.
I'm going to need to make adjustments. And that's what it is. I'm just making adjustments. There we go. Because we want lots of room for our boat. Just bringing over a little shoreline. I'm just wanting to know where my embankment goes up. I need to add a little white to it. Past the 6-inch mark, little bank up. Bring this little bank over here. These are general. We'll be getting them in more specifically later, but it's just good to know where objects go. So bring this over, wiggling a little line back, pulling that out. Little distant shoreline there. Now, coming over here, I've got a bit of a little bank coming down. That I need to know where it is. All right. It's just a little bit, I've got a lot of trees and things that will be giving me a little edge. I just need to know that I've got leaves through here and grasses and things and shorelines coming forward there, right? So where do I have hill? I've got a lot of trees coming here, so don't be too precious about the left-hand side. There's a lot of trees to put in. They're going to paint out most of what we got. I was watching one of my favorite artists, Bob Ross, the other day, and I was just feeling for his students because he put in his beautiful cabin in every single log and then put a big tree on it. And I just thought,
yep,
I got to let my students know when not to get too precious. So we're going to be enough to have it covered over here, but we're not going to be too precious. Right? Mm-hmm. Precious means like too careful, too concerned. And I can always like check if I want to and be like, all right, 2 inches is kind of where I'm eyeballing it. Just make sure that I've got a good 2-inch mark. And, you know, maybe I want to be a little more down here on my little shoreline. Because we've got a boat right here. You know, I'm going to come just, if this is right here is kind of the back of my boat, right? I've got to bring my boat forward. So I'm going to like let myself know where I'm about 1 inch up. That's got to be room for my boat. Sometimes you have to give yourself breaks to know what you're sketching in. And remember, we're just sketching in. You can use chalk if this is not fun in any way. Right? We are not stuck doing anything we don't like. I'm going to bring a little bit of a line up for the front of the boat. And this is just a general drawing of my boat. So the line goes upwards a couple of inches and then comes back to the boat where we're getting into the hull. We want a little bit of a triangle of the hull that comes forward. And then generally the boat will always kind of sweep back into itself. I like the perspective on boats. So you can see it's much larger here and it narrows towards the back. In painting, you're painting out a lot of stuff. So you want to give yourself enough lines to go, don't put all my water reflections where I'm going to stick a boat. Don't put all my best tree leaves where I'm going to stick a tree in front of it, right? This is all you're trying to know. Basic shapes and placement to make sure that you're, you know, happy with it. And then I'm going to bring this back here. All right, so the boat can come up. We're just going to make sure we have enough boat. If I need to get more into the white, I can. I like to kind of sketch and paint, but that might not be fun for you. And if it's not, don't stress on it. It doesn't have to be. What's great to remember is that the boat will have a reflection, and it's the mirror of what's above it. So it'll be kind of in reverse. You know, so you definitely want to make sure that whatever you do, you've got that sort of effect or feeling in there. We got a little mirror there. We know we're going to have a mirror here, but we won't put that in yet. All right. Let's just say that we have those structures in, right? You've got the reference for the grid and you've got the traceable. And these are general placements. So this isn't a place to be hard on yourself or stressed with yourself. You just be easy with this portion of it. Because there's a lot to put back here. And there's a lot coming forward. And when you have a lot of layers in a canvas, there's tons and tons of places to make changes or move or alter anything. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a picture and call this a step. And probably I have to heat my coffee again. It's skinning on top. All right. I love it. John is very sweet. We put a microwave right by the studio. We're rebuilding the studio in a way I can't even explain to you. I know I've said this, but like, I mean, he has just been blowing my mind lately. Like with what he's installed, things are going to be back from early days in the show that you have missed and been like, hey, man, I wish this was in the studio again. We're getting that back in. We took a very innovative easel and kind of created a new way. We took it all apart. We upcycled it. We did.
Brand new one.
Brand new one. We pulled it all apart and said, we want just this part of you, easel. And we've got a new kind of way of painting going on there. It says the 16 by 20s will be back soon. Are you guys excited? Step 3, we're going to put in some distant leaves. We're going to get that kind of far away stuff going again.
So I'm excited about it.
Now, if you think about it, here we've got the little yellow area with leaves, and then as it comes out is more into the deep browns, grays, and oranges, right? And those are the colors we're going to want to get into. A lot of ways that we could do this. My suggestion is that we use brushes that create that effect or that leaf texture that gives that to us where we're not painting every single leaf, but we're painting just one. Now, I literally grabbed one of these, and I'll tell you right now, what's great about these is the cost. What's going to be bad about it is the shedding. So before you ever use, especially a cheap hog brush, you're going to want to pull the bristles out. See what I'm doing? You can wash them out, you can pull them out, but you need to check your brush ahead of time. Otherwise, your canvas is going to look like it's been shed on. I got this in a big pack of discount brushes. I'm pointing this out. I have beautiful, high-end, expensive hogs. You know I love them. I just want you to know that you can do things with different brushes. And if it's not in your budget to get that expensive brush, I want you to see me do this with the Art Minds DIY Home from the craft paint section of the store and get a good result. You guys ready for that? Mm-hmm. So what's the first thing we're learning? Pre-shed your brush. Okay. And I've been hard on it. I'm pulling it out so that by the time I get here, I know that I'm not dealing with having a hard time. I'm going to grab a little of my brown and green together into my little hog brush. I'm going to come over to my yellow and get kind of a yellow-green, and I'm going to smidge here some orange. See that color there? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to really press down. So many layers are coming.
Focus, focus, focus,
focus, focus, focus.
Ah, there we go.
What am I watching for? I'm watching for any little loose hairs that come out. I can paint with an inexpensive brush. I've added more white to create some highlights. Where I want some leaves and some of the blue kind of peeking out, I just lower the pressure on my brush. I stop pressing in so hard. Right? If I come out, as I come out, I might get into my brown. You know, you can put a little orange into it, but it's quite dark. Quite dark. I'm going to leave this little pop here. I think it's going to go more into the orange as I go up. And let's make sure we are light with that so that there's paint there, but there's blue sky showing through. Not an expensive brush, very simple technique. Right? Not an expensive brush, very simple technique. I'm just tapping up and down. I'm going to go into my blue and brown. I haven't rinsed out. I'm still just pushing there, and I'm leaving a little bit of space above this area.
Where is that? All right. How dry is that brush?
I haven't even put it in water.
Okay, that makes sense.
I have not put it in water. With a very inexpensive, and I'm glad that I hope I said it, but just in case I didn't, and I may not have. When the brush is cheaper, right, you'll want it to work drier. Now, when I do have to rinse it out, that means that the hairs on the brush are going to soak in the water and get softer. A little bit. Not terribly, but a little bit. In this distant area, I'm going to grab a little bit of my orange and brown, and I'll let some white get into it. We'll gray the different colors as we go. And I'm going to brush down.
Holy smokes. No wonder I was having trouble keeping up with everybody in chat. We got a lot of people in the room. Hello, everybody. I just looked over to see.
Did you?
Yeah, it's just like, I'm just got the chat window up here where I'm just chatting with people.
I'm adding a little white and brown. You keep telling me. I'm just going to make sure that we do this. And we're going to pay attention to the brush stroke directionality. These are distant things, right? These are early layers. This is early stuff that we're putting in. And we're going to do this in several layers so that by the time you're done, you'll be like, wow, that really weirdly worked out well. I'm going to get a little of my yellow-green here. Put that in. Watch for those shedding hairs. Cheap brushes will shed hairs for you, and you want to watch for them. That's one of the differences between an expensive brush and a cheap brush. A cheap brush may shed hairs. Doesn't matter. That's okay. You don't have to be stressed about that. That's just something to know that is going on. and get into this here, and I'm going to then blend those little spaces out here. If you get a brush, here's what I do. When I get a bristle, I flick it off. There it is.
Flick it. Flick the bristles.
I maybe spent
Just
$3 on these brushes.
See, here's the problem.
So my good ones are like up to 30, but it's a $3 brush getting the same technique. That's the difference.
This is the truth. Cinnamon.
Ultramarine blue. Yeah.
She flicks her bristles at the walls, and they stick with a little bit of acrylic paint. So you walk by, it's like a 3-year-old's wall covered with flicked bristles.
It is true. I took some gray and make a little bit of gray here. And where the hill and the trees are starting to meet, I'm just going to be softening that line a little bit with this gray. So that's the burnt sienna and the ultramarine. I'm working those together. You can see that load on the brush.
You can tell Cinnamon's like, I'm in a painting zone.
I'm tapping up and down. Well, I was like, this week I'm going to show you guys that it does not have to be always the expensive.
Well, no, and that's good. I'm just like, I know that this is a big painting today.
Yeah.
And so
it is. And here's what I want you guys to see. The layers coming in, I'm rinsing out. Be sure you rinse these brushes out really well, right? Now, also something for you pet owners to know, if you have cats and you have dogs, if you've got bristles like this, cheap or expensive, the cat doesn't know the difference between your $100 brush and your $2 brush. It smells really good, especially when wet. Goat hair, squirrel hair, they love them. They want to chew them. Tip, put those brushes up high out of the reach of your pets.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, before you lose a beautiful brush.
Now, do you need to dry this?
I'm going to dry this, yes, and then we're going to call it a step and come back and get some more distant landscape coming in.
So, man, if you guys would like, I'm going to see if I can do this. Do-do-do-do. Whoosh. If you'd like text notifications when we go live, send the message, The Art Sherpa, all one word, to the number 33222. And you'll be signed up for our little text message notifications. We call them gnomifications. And that's because we got little gnomes that we send out that do the work of gnomifying.
We got to get the new website going so we can gnome everybody, though.
So we get more gnomes because gnomes are not cheap. They have a union and they demand every gnome get paid every time they go out.
I want to thank everybody for the amazing dad jokes for the giveaway. The giveaway's still open on the Painted Bird Hop. If you want to enter for your chance to win a signed print, you go by all 3 videos. It's the American Goldfinch, the North American Cardinal, and the Hummingbird. My moderators can let you know where those are. And you go, optionally tell me a dad joke, and add the hashtag bird hop or bird hop. We're letting all the... If you generally get it, we're letting it through. We've got a way of doing that, so you don't have to be, oh, I didn't get it exactly right. We're not here to like mess with you. But it's still open until next Saturday when we announce the winner. So go by and enter for a chance to win if you'd like a signed print from me. It'd be kind of cool. All right, so what do we have? We have kind of a messy center, right? But we want a messy center. We are going to start pulling in some thoughtfulness to the center. And in this, I'm going to get an Art Sherpa cat's tongue. This is just a pointed filbert. And what does that mean for you at home if you don't have one? Just grab a regular filbert. That is this brush that looks like a little rounded tongue. Filbert means tongue. Or a round brush. Either one is fine. Right now, you just want to be able to make certain kinds of lines or activities. I'm going to grab a little of my green and brown. This is my phthalo green and my burnt sienna. And we're going to come here and begin to lightly imply. And this is just an implication, guys. And it's light pressure. The brush is not particularly wet. I want some of the canvas behind me to kind of show in. And where am I not going to put all my hard work and love and attention? From about here back, it has to be painted, but don't put your hardest work there because we're going to put a tree. It needs to be there, but you don't want to put the tree yet. And then here on a much lower little line, I'm going to kind of brush in a little green slope. I can add yellow, create a little bit of light and depth. And then between, if I want to be a bit more brown, I just add more brown. And I'm going to brush up. There are subtle differences. We're just creating different little variants in the ground. Sometimes I like to get into the gray of it. And then I'm going to brush this way. Up here, I'm going to slope up a little bit, and kind of implies that the slope is going up into the park. Far away, isn't it? Far away slope in the park. I'm going to take my dirty brush, it's got a bit of that gray, into my bright green, and begin to imply here a little light. Just a little bit. And just along this top, just implications. It's just far away, maybe into this orange. It's very far away and sloping in.
It is.
The brush stroke helps identify the hill slope. And because it's far away, that's not where our details are going to be. While I'm here.
That's so funny.
What?
Brush strokes help identify the hill strokes. That's a quote going in the book.
Quote going in. It probably is going to go in
sure.
the mini book. Knowing my team, it'll be in the mini book. I am going to do these distant little trees. I've got a little black, a little ultramarine, and a little brown. And I'll add some white to it because they're a little farther away, so they're maybe not as dark.
Oh.
And I'm just going to go on the edge of my brush here, or on the point. You can use a round if you have a brush that doesn't give you good results.
Lynn wants you to know we are well into Sherpa.
We are Sherpa!
See, Lynn, you knew.
I've got some paint on my knuckle. Don't do that with me.
This is why I surround her with curtains.
Why?
And seriously, when you guys see some of the things we have to control her paint in the new studio, you will be as amused as I am. Who knew I could heckle
Adding
my
little
wife?
distant lines. These are the faraway trees, right? We have some faraway trees.
They're very far away.
Far
I zoom
away.
in on them. They're so far.
Just so far away.
Very far.
Not
Now,
too. We're
how-
going to add little strokes. I like to make sure that some are a little thicker. You want to keep them fine because they are far away.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
How come you can make your brush strokes so fine with that big brush?
One, it's a well-made brush, right? See that nice sharp edge there? It's got a good sharp edge.
Ooh.
And that edge retains its shape. In other words, once you ever had a brush, you get it wet and it doesn't look like the brush did when it was dry.
Yes.
When you bought it at the store.
Like almost all of mine.
Right. That is, that's not my favorite. It happens to everybody. A good brush retains its shape even after the sizing is washed out. It has good spring and it bounces back to its original shaping. And so this one does, it's got a good sharp edge. And so as long as I keep my brush pressure a little bit light, which I will do, I'm going to make some of these a little more gray in the background. We could scrape away paint. That's a nice way of doing this sometimes, but I think it's just great to say, oh, no, there's just a little bit. And again, don't put all your hard work into this because we're going to put a bunch of, oh gosh, trees and leaves and things like that on it. We've just got to get the basic gist. Now I can have a darker trunk coming forward for a couple. I'm going to make this one a little bit darker. Some more thought out tree. And even though I know I'm going to be causing it to disappear into branches and stuff, I still want to Make sure. There's another little focal set right here. This one kind of comes forward a bit, doesn't it? It's thicker at the bottom and skinnier at the top. Trees get skinnier as they grow up and older. Super unfair. Little advantage that trees have over regular human beings. All right, so we're putting in distant. These are little trunks. Little trunks. Let's put one right here. He's a little more focal. A little bigger tree that maybe happened here. And then next to him, maybe there's a little one that's got a bit of a bend to it. I'm going to branch this one out into like one of those little Ys where the tree has a big low kind of branch. We have a lot of leaves going here, so we're not going to stress on that, right? This one might have a few more details, so I might add a little more dark to the side there, and then maybe another little tree coming here. Give it a little branch, but it's far away. It's not our most up-close tree. We're just getting some distant background. Now, what I'm going to do for myself is I'm going to take a little fan brush, okay? And I'm going to get a little green, so the brown and the green together, right? And the fan brush, let's get it a little bit wet, but not very wet. And we want very light green. I'm going to put some orange in it to gray it like you do, because it's fall. A little white there. Come back here. Let me just push up a little bit of highlight in the grass that's far away. Twix. Who keeps feeding her the stinky stuff before she comes to see me? Not everywhere. This is just some highlights of some faraway things in these little trees. Little interesting, distant thoughtfulness. Maybe a little more brown into the next mix. We're just putting a little bit of texture here. See, I'm pushing it forward. Got a little bit over my tree, and I do want to fix that because grass doesn't grow across the tree.
Could be mossy.
It could be, but we probably might express that moss. Where I've got a delicate area, I might come in on my corner a bit. And get a little more green or a little more brown. Light pressure, right? These are little marks that we want to show that they're there, but we don't want to have like everything going on. I might get a little white into that, so it's kind of like a grayed out green, isn't it? More yellow. A lot of times with fall colors, they're bright. I'm on the edge now and I'm wiggling back and forth just a bit. A little bit happening there. Oh. Push. So now aren't those in the distance a little bit? They're a little bit in the distance. They're a little bit, oh, I'm not so forward and so, messy that, I'm here, back here. Little pushes in the strokes, little elements. Don't push up hard. You want to just give a little kiss of grass. The kiss of grass. Now, I love making my gray with my ultramarine and my burnt sienna. They make a great tree gray. And I'm going to get a little white on there. And I'm going to keep using my fan brush, and I'm going to make just a bit of bark. A bit there. See how those have little bits of bark. I'm coming on the edge. This is a number 2 Silverstone hog. So this is what I mean. Like sometimes some Silverstone is a very good hog line. You know, a little different than the Art Minds line of sheddiness. I could find one in the Art Minds line, though, that would work for this. I could.
Could.
So that's the thing to just sort of understand is that you don't have to have the most perfect, amazing. I'm going to just talk about a little bit of twist in that tree.
Okay. This, I'm not sure what it's. This is either a Disney-esque forest or kind of that 70s. Like I can't. It's got that vibe to it here. You know what I mean?
Does it have a
I think
70s vibe to you?
maybe the color
The
palette.
forest has gone retro. I'm
don't
making
know.
a dark brown and I'm going to come back in.
I think it's that autumn color palette.
It
and
is
the
that
way
autumn
the
color palette.
sticky
Really
trees.
is wonderful. It's great to come back and then, you know, rough up maybe a little of this trunk, you know, with ooh, a little, I got a little intense there. I'll come and fix that. That was a little more than I meant to do on that one tree, right? Lots of ways I can do that. If it's still wet, I can erase it, which it was. Sometimes you'll be going, you're like, oh, I just got a little excited. The other thing I can do is come back with a little bit of my background color and, you know, trim a tree. Okay. It's certainly fine.
Yeah.
It's not good. Let's call that a step because that's a lot to take in. So we've put in some rough and distant trees in our park and we want them to feel far away, but we want to, because we want these trees to feel like they don't live alone. We don't want them to live alone, isolated in the park, huh? I don't know. I mean, I picked this image as a reference because it's where I wish I was this fall. And I love the colors. I really like the pop of blue on the boat and in the water around all that orange. It just really pulled me in. It's going to be so nice. It's going to be so nice. I'm going to keep with my little fan here, my little hoggy fan. It's a fun little brush, isn't it? Now, up front, we have, interestingly enough, some weepers, some weep in the willows, right? We've got to get some of that in. Again, we've got lots of branches and twigs and things happening all around here, but I got to get some weepers in. So I'm going to grab my yellow, right? Yellow and green, and just a smidge of the orange. And I'm going to come on the edge all through here. These are light marks. Sometimes I'll put the paint in heavier and sometimes I put it in lighter. And I do that by how hard I press. I've got a pretty decent load on my brush. You can see that here, but it's not like heavily put on there. I want to start talking about the drop of the willows. The drop of the willows. You can always get a little brown into your yellow too and kind of mute it. Not everyone has to be completely bright. Kind of comes through here. There is yellow all through here. Might through these trees kind of increase some of the yellow. It's distant, but now coming up around the sunlight up here, I'm going to definitely get a little more yellow on my brush, and this time I'm going to get some white. These are different little layers. I don't try to be uniform, right? Sometimes I use the corner of my brush. That can help. Sometimes I come in on the edges. What you want to make sure is that you don't have just a uniform across, right? There's some that is lighter. There's some that is darker, for sure. There's not a uniform across. Some little focal yellow here. Maybe a little orange. Kind of worked into that yellow and green. And just press that down. Let some of these distant trees weep a little. Some of the leaves are very solid, and we're going to have them very, very solid in the distance. Some are not.
You're layering these colors as you go.
I am, and it's important to layer them, but let some of them be brighter and some of them be more dim. Every once in a while, rinse your brush out. You can use any good fan that is stiff enough for acrylic paint. A hog or a good stiff synthetic like my Art Sherpa fan brush will work. And come here into my brown and my orange. Let's just bring some of my brown and orange through there. A little brown and orange. Definitely deeper. You can see that's starting to pull another layer of tree forward. Not a fun tree coming forward? Now in the far off distance, I've got a little of my brown and black. Make sure that we've got a little bit. Kisses, kisses. Kisses, kisses, kisses. And remember that over here, we don't want to do all of our best work because we got a bunch of trees we're going to be putting there and we will be so sad. We have to have enough that when we layer the trees in, they belong to the composition, but not so much that we're super duper sad. I'm going to bring some of these down. See how we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Some tree branches grow down, don't they? They don't all grow up. Some of them have to grow down. Now around this other side, I'm going to take another little bit of my orange and brown. You can get a little more of your red into it this time. These are more little distinctly shaped branches that are letting, you know, some of what's happening there come out. I definitely want that.
Mm-hmm.
A little layer here. I can even, interestingly enough, get a slightly deeper, surprising red with a little of that quinacridone. I added a little quinacridone to that mix, and that cools it some. And that's going to let that go. I want a little more brown. I can even add, interestingly enough, a little orange to my black. Red and black make a pretty dramatic brown. So if you're like, oh, I need a more dramatic brown, what do? You add a little red to your black. Right here. See how I took it over? There's lots of ways to create that sense of depth there. Okay, let's call this a step. We're going to come back and add another little stage. Isn't this starting to look gorgeous? I really like it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He was already muted, so he was on the way. So there is layers, and that's why I'm saying that first layer, you can be messy. There are times if a project has a lot of layers in it, you can be messy. Now I'm going to go through a lot of brown in this. This painting is going to go through a lot of brown. It's not going to go through that much quinacridone magenta. And, oh, I would love some too. You can make some. I dropped my cap. And okay, I get it at the end of the show. It's a good time if you want to grab a number 4 round. You want to do any sort of work on your little trees over here. While he's getting a little coffee, I'm going to take my number 4 Art Sherpa round, a little black. I'm going to come here and make sure that my trees have a lot of little personality. Trees need personality. The other thing that I can do is start to kind of add a little bit of trunk in there, right? Because they have little branches and things that are coming up. They're so branchy. So I'm on the toe. I'm going to thin the paint with water. Right, I go into my water, come over here, and I kind of swirl it around. It thins it. You see how I thin it? And then I roll my brush, and then I load on the toe, and that's going to improve the line that I'm getting off the brush. My pressure is light. I'm going to make some very distant little branches. You break them out. Branches are, you know, sometimes those are hard for us to like see and draw. I do some downward little branches. We want them to be sort of wild and unruly. We don't always see every branch. We see some of the branches in the forest. If you want to see some of them, sometimes you've got to bring them in from the side. Maybe they come off the canvas. I'm diverging them. I try to avoid doing a fork. Let's see if I've got an area. What you want to try to avoid doing is that, right? You don't want to do that. That's going to look like a fork or chicken fork or a pitchfork. You want to come up and break them out coming off of each other, right? It's a little different than antlers. It's a little different than, you know, the different things that you might be thinking about. You need some thick, you need some thin. Where my trunks might be going through more light, I might add a little of my yellow to that just so that it looks like it's part of the area that's more light. You can add more orange, whatever you want. You just want them to be a little lighter, the branches in the center here. Not little bits of lines, right? And we're going to add more leaves and everything to everything, but we need to have some of these branches coming down, and you got to take the time to do them. They're just involved. You know, break them down, kind of wander them through. I change directions. We're not going to draw every single branch. We're going to draw enough to capture that feeling and then come back and add more and more and more, and as they layer forward, it's going to get better and better. Some of the branches I have might, you know, they might come through here and be stronger. To step, nothing. Not a step for a minute. I am 5 minutes from a step. I have so many branches to do. So many branches. Maybe come in and define a tree a little bit. Add a little twist of bark to some. Making them interesting trees. You can always come in and get a little of your green. Oh, I think there needs to be something at the base of you. I'll push that up too. I don't want that to be. A little landscape that looks like it belongs. Coming in from the edge, sweeping down, coming out. Light pressure, making sure that they're a maze, a tangle. You can see I bring those down. Oh, wonderful. Oh, it is. It's very, very hot. You just really felt the heat on that, didn't you? You're like, how much heat do I need? Oh, I'd like all the heat, you said. It's okay. It's doing pretty good. We're getting in some of that texture. Let's add some more branches. All right, while we're at it, I'm going to maybe take some fluid paint right here. I'm going to add a little bit of fluid just to improve the flow of my paint, and a little of my ultramarine blue and my black so that the gray is just a little blued. Let's make sure that some of these branches have a few tones, that they're not just one tone of branch, right? Highlight some of the tops of them. Not all of them, just some of it. It's totally fine. You just want to highlight some of it. A little bit of gray in some of the branches. Some of them are maybe kind of light and you want to bring them over in more of a tangled way. I might add a little more white and get kind of a very lighter gray. So that our branches have dimensionality, right? Little gray distant trees. It's pretty good. Now to finish it off, we're going to want to get into our, maybe a little more red into our orange. So that's kind of a very orange red, right? And I'll tone it with like a little bit of black to deepen it. And layer some leaves, not all, not constantly, not everywhere, but some in front of these branches.
Now, this is a
little bit here, some in front. Yes, this is a.
No, if you're a beginner, Where is this at on your beginning
3
scale?
hoot. I try to break down my beginning classes into hoots. So you understand that it's not difficulties. I don't want to call it difficulties because art is never a difficulty. It's a joy. But you might need some skills to complete a project. So 1 hoot is you have no skills yet. You're not even sure how to load a brush. I've got a video where to start acrylic painting. You watched it and you jump into the 1 hoot paintings and you learn about blending and dry brushing and how to make a stroke and those things. These are just skills. You can do it. Then as you go along, you're like, I kind of get some of these skills. Then you go 2 hoot. I'm gonna make a more complicated project. Maybe have some more colors in there. Maybe 2 or 3 techniques in a painting. And then 3 hoot is like, you have learned some skills. You're not really ready to construct like this advanced of a landscape painting yet. You still need that guidance through, but you're learning on using more of the techniques and skills that you're developing. Going to continue add red and a little bit of black. 3 hoots generally don't work as good with student paints. Because you have to have good coverage, right? At a 3 hoot point, you're going to want to know, some of our basic terminology. We have the mini books, and what we found is with the mini books, I'm adding just a little kiss more of the red there, just to fill in our forest a bit, as you do. Still feel like there's a lighter green that I could get in there, lighter yellow I could work out. Get a little more white into that. But so that's kind of how we look at the hoots. And if today it's just maybe too much, right? Like sometimes that's true. Maybe today is too much. Doesn't mean tomorrow it will be. Mm-hmm. You can do these things. These are doable things. You just may need a little extra time or a little extra help, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just know that it's in you. Just adding a little bit of a kiss of light in the center because I just want those willows to feel more willowy. Let's call this a step because that's a lot. We did a lot. Look at our distant forest. Doesn't it feel like a park you would go to? You just throw out a blanket and do what you want to do there and relax. I'll tell you right now, I bet you, like me, are just over COVID and would really like it to go away forever, ever, 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 and ever, and ever, and ever, and ever, and ever. Like smallpox, like gone, like forever. And, sometimes taking time to paint something that helps you relax or helps you let go of what's currently going on in your life, you give yourself a perfect park and you mentally go on vacation there. Can make a huge difference to your experience and how you're feeling about what's going on. This water is dirty. What do? We get clean water. That's what we do. We're going to continue kind of pulling some objects and things forward. Very excited about it. I really like me a little fan brush, so we're going to keep up with that. Yep, I dropped my towel. New towel. So I'm going to take my phthalo green, which is a pretty bright green, and I'm going to grab some of my cad yellow. The 2 of these make a very light color that's super bright, like new grass. And I'm going to just put a little bit of some new grasses down this embankment. Not everywhere, just a few places. Again, with stuff, it's often about don't make it solid. And apply a little bit around that tree. I can get a little orange into it. I haven't rinsed my brush. Are you noticing how it's loosely mixed on that brush? Big art stuff here. Our birds, if you want to do the bird hop, while quick, those are 1 hoot paintings, maybe 2 hoot at tops. They're real nice beginner entry thing. I've got a lot of really fun 1 or 2 color paintings. I have a series where you just use primaries. So anything I do in a mason jar, probably pretty 1 hoot. So we've got a lot. Sometimes I'll get a little more yellow into it. Maybe add a little more here. I like to make it irregular so that what's going on seems, natural, seems like what you might see in a park. There is an interesting bunch of dead leaves and things that are a little grayed, so I'm going to take my orange and go into my gray. Kind of put those through here where they are, and then maybe even into some gray. Oftentimes when we're doing fall landscapes, we forget the gray, and the gray is a big part of a fall landscape. The black and the gray. And I've got like lots of little things I'm going to be doing here. Let's get some black in.
Could you talk about the differences between a stretch canvas and a canvas board?
So a stretch canvas has a bit of a drum or spring to it. When your brush hits it, it kind of pushes back. It's very light. A board is a more firm, structured surface. The canvas frames easily with clips. You might want to put a board in a different type of frame. Sometimes boards are a good way of saving money, and you might enjoy that part of them, or they save money. They're also space saving, which people can really, really like. The space saving nature of it. I'm going to push some strokes up like this with kind of a damp brush, kind of make that a little more irregular. So one isn't better than the other. It's really about your choice as an artist, and as a painter, and your lifestyle. If you're painting a lot, you might prefer boards and smaller canvases just because you're not then having to fight for the space. Okay. I like that. That's looking kind of good. I might get a little of my orange here and kind of push up some orange. When you push up on a fan, you get some interesting grass. I could come in with a grass comb, sure, for sure. I could do that, come in with a grass comb and really, really get those little blades going, get that stuff going. But you can do a lot with a fan pressing up. I'm going to take my cat's tongue and I'm going to initially get my Mars black and my ultramarine blue. I'm going to come here. And give myself some rock shelving. The thing to be aware of in your rocks, whatever you're painting in your rocks, is that they have nice edges. And for those of you that did Acrylic April, the landscape one, I'm sure you're like, oh no, rocks. But rocks are wonderful. I'm going to bring those along there. They are often a very dark shape. I'll bring one forward into our water area. And we're going to really paint them and understand them through their highlights and the water falling down them. I'm also going to come along this sort of edge here. Initially, a little bit with a little line that says, oh, this is a little dark. So I know where that is. And let's pull down some of these greens and everything while we have them that we've been playing with. So see here? Just start to think about it. Little green.
You're sort of
wiggling my little
pulling.
brush and pulling it down.
Yeah, wiggle and pull.
Wiggle and pull right now. We'll find the little shoreline here real soon. I just want to start to think about my water. And this is just an initial thought of it. I'm going to grab a little of my gray here. Unexpected, I know. A little of that blue in there. I'll wiggle and pull down. You guys see how I'm doing that?
It's
Let's grab some of our light green. I'm going to need a little more water on my brush for this. And, you know, I definitely want to use the colors that are around. If I have a yellow, I want to have that yellow in there. You know, there's that wonderful light yellow. Pull that through. You can see kind of do that at an angle. Now wiggle this back and forth and pull down. I'm creating the diffused reflections that we see in water. Don't worry about your boat too much. It doesn't need to be too precious at this stage of things. You can get it back in pretty easily. We just didn't want to do all your best reflections underneath it. You know, you don't want to be there going, oh, those are my best reflections I've ever done underneath the boat. I'm going to add some bright green.
Mute you for. Okay, just want to make
But
sure.
thank you. All right, see, so that's just sort of coming down there. We're wanting to pull those reflections in. Another trick that you can do is kind of come across. Isn't that fun? Maybe a little of the yellow and orange. And if I need more water, I'll get it.
Mm.
And then I can come across. Come here and pull down. I get some of my gray. Work right into that orange. Look at that go. We're just starting to talk about how this river might reflect. Do we remember our tree trunk color, which was our Mars black, and our burnt sienna and our ultramarine blue? Okay, now what I find, and this is why I like to have a rotation, if you've got it on an easel, flip it upright. If you've got it in your lap, you just want to change the thing. Because what it is these are little reflections, and they are the mirror.
Mm.
So if it's an alligator thing that goes this way, this one goes this way. If it flips back, it flips back. So you're always making kind of an alligator mouth. Like this tree trunk goes like this. Right? This one is just the bend of that. When I put a tree trunk in, I'm going to come across it and make sure I soften it with my water.
Mm.
Got to soften my trunk in my water. If I need a little more paint on there, I'll get it.
Just say thank you to all the supporters out there with super
Thank
chat
you.
and stars and all that stuff.
All right. See, we're going to go across here. It's still wet. Diffused it. See how we're starting to get like a reflection in the water? When you have trees, they're gonna do that here. They're gonna have a little bit of themselves coming out. And they're gonna be a little out of focus.
Mm.
We will still come back with brighter colors. Where right now, just really trying to show the diffuse nature of what's in the water. I may get a little of my blue here and a little white. It's going to be a little dramatic. I'm going to take it across. Early days of these amazing reflections. We have some trunks here too, don't we? And I'll just line it with what it has. Just the starts of it.
Wow.
Brushing across, diffusing it. Doesn't mean that getting that worked in now. All right, so it's kind of at a crazy stage. We have lots and lots of blending and more to do, but we kind of know where those are. So let's get a step here so that when we do the much more complicated water kind of reflection and features and stones, you know where your basic trunks are. Essentially, in all landscape, water is a mirror. It's a mirror in motion. Sometimes the mirror is broken by wind or environment or current. Sometimes it's very still, like on this lake, where it's just a little bit of ripple. The disturbance in our mirror here at this lake is the waterfall. It's pushing the water a little bit, and there's a little bit of wind. And so that's why our mirror isn't glass perfect and why we're diffusing some of what we see a little bit. Right? Now I'm going to come in and let's take our big hog cheap brush that we did from earlier. It's pretty wonderful. I'm going to get a little bit of my kind of red here. And I'm going to very loosely begin to paint in some of the rest of the water for my lake. I'm going to get different colors. If, you know, we're coming out from where that yellow was, I know I'm going to need some of that yellow. And I'm back into my not particularly pricey brush. Might get some brown, which is fun. I know where my trunks are, so it's going to be easy for me to put them back. And that brush is shedding because it's inexpensive. There isn't water in that, is that? We're just getting those very diffuse. Let's get a little more of our red and quin into this, over to this orange. You can see which just makes it bright, bright, bright. I'm going to come here and really get a great reflection going here. Put a little black into it. So it's down and across. Just the beginnings now. I may have to rinse out my brush periodically to get some good, see, that's a lot of water. What happens is the hog really carries a lot of water. So you've got to watch for the water on the hog. A little gray and blue there. Very powerful.
Wow, that's just that vertical pull down.
Yeah, and you want to avoid making a plaid. This can happen on you quicker than you think. I'm going to just softly take it this way and then pull it down. And put a little blue here. Pretty dramatic. Pressure's light, and that helps me get that cross point. Right? Brush is a hot mess. What's the point of this? The point is that you don't have to have the priciest brush in the bucket to get a good painting. The magic is in you, not the brush.
Ooh.
Right? Okay, so we have these weird little rocks back here. I like my weird little rocks. I might have to put them back a little bit because I got really excited with my water reflection. The rocks also have some nice gray tops and reflections to them. It's okay that I use my cat's tongue. I want to make sure that any reflections that I show on them in the gray, right? And I will have gray reflections, that kind of rock roughness to it on the edge of my brush. And I'm just making sure that the tops of them look hewn. Make sure your rocks are hewn.
I love those rocks.
They're coming in, doing rocky rock things. Add a little blue to the base here because it makes me happy. And I'll pull it out a little bit. Some longer, some shorter. Sometimes a little more black. Sometimes a little more blue. We're going to come back here, a little blue and white. Adding a little bit of a waterfall that's coming down. Just pulling in a little bit of a waterfall. And where there's the waterfall, right, it's going to have a little more of a reflection. And so that's what we're trying to make sure that we do is we get that good reflection. And just come on the edge. So it doesn't have to be the fan brush, right? It's just understanding that there's some type of diffused reflection that we've got that we're contending with. If we get too long with it, we just bring it back. Soften that edge. Don't be too stressed about it. We've got a tree trunk here, right? Tree trunk, tree trunk. A little bit of a highlight.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. We're going to diffuse that highlight, but it's there in the tree, so we want to make sure we have it in the reflection. Flick it over to the side to diffuse it. If I need to come back with a little orange in it, I will.
Hmm.
Just continue to paint the forest. Really, what is reflecting is everything around
Mm-hmm.
the lake. The lake is colorful because it's fall and everything around the lake is colorful. I'm going to continue to add reflections. I might come between some of my tree reflections just so that I don't, get lost into everything there.
Yep.
I need more orange. I'll get more orange. And then diffuse across. Now I can bring some of these little orange reflections across my tree. That's pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
A little blue and black. Coming off my rocks here. Also pretty powerful.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this. It's a very fun day.
It really is.
Got a lot of fun greens and everything over here. And again, if you remember, water is a mirror, so the reflection that is happening here should be kind of on the same hillside run.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm trying to think about is the way the hillside is.
Right.
Kind of reflecting as well. A little orange here, so maybe I'll put a little of that in the water.
Mm-hmm.
What I have up there, I might put down here. I definitely still want to have my trunks, so I may define those some more.
Which brush is that?
I'm doing the number 4 round and my number 8 cat's tongue in the Art Sherpa.
Okay.
You could just use any brush you have. Maybe implying some like branches that are reflecting. Fun.
Mm.
So I'm going to do a trick. I'm going to make sure. Yeah, I'm good. I like to make sure that things on my water have some kind of very good straight verticals. So I might grab my T-square here. And that just lets me check my verticals.
Mm.
If I feel like anything is kind of off or not working.
I love the reflections there.
I want to make sure that I'm painting those in the water. That is the fun and joy of the water. Now, we have more reflections that will be happening here. So I have the very busy work of figuring out how to, again, these are my Quinn red, my cad red back into my orange. And I've got the boat reflection. So I've got to figure out how to get that base lake in before I put in those details. That's a nice pop
It is.
of drama. I can bring some of that drama over here if I want. Yeah, the drama is coming a couple places.
Mm-hmm.
Take the drama around. You want drama on you may not want drama in your life, but you do want drama on your canvas.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what makes this work is that it's ripples in the water, right? So if I'm bringing an orange across what I already have, which I will here, it's ripples. It allows some of what's there to show through. That broken line. Any just jacked up brush will completely do this for you. Like that brush that your animal got a hold of that it chewed up and now it's ruined. Ripple brush. You know. So I find that artists, like as a group, like we make do. We figure out what we need. We make it work. We make it work. We'll come along here, make a little kind of dark shoreline color. Make sure that my shoreline is nice and is sort of reflected in this water. The thing about a shoreline is that generally the embankment, it isn't just like one thing. It's got little rough areas. There's areas where the grass isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to make sure that that's also reflected in the water. Just generally. Let's call this a step because we've taken in a lot and we've got some really interesting work we've got to do coming up. I'm going to do that. Here you go. All right. Any questions? I should take them. Yeah, I do, but I'm going to go check the Skype. So we have the mods try to get us questions. If you put them all in cabs, we won't think you're yelling at us. We will definitely think that, let's see that. All right, live show questions, that's it. So I will catch the last one that's there. See if I bet I missed a bunch. Dorothy Raidmaker.
Oh, let's see.
Hi, Dorothy. What brush am I using now? So the brushes that I'm going through right now in this canvas, let me show you what I've gone through. Just in general for this. And I just bought this, opened it, and used it. Art Minds DIY Home. This is from that craft section of Michael's. I've got an Art Sherpa Cat's Tongue number 8, an Art Sherpa Round number 4. I've been using a number 2 Silverstone. I had a 30 Bright that made me so mad I threw it across the room. So that's where I was there. I got some T-squares going in, and I have been using palette knife to mix colors. That's where I'm at. All right, and then can a painting, Suzanne on YouTube asks, can a painting get too busy? Sure. Anything can be too light or too busy. It's really and it's also about preference, right? It's about how we look at things and then decide, does that work for what we prefer, what we like in our art? I'm gonna get a little black. Like for some of us, like what is too busy would not even feel completed. For others. So we all have our own preferences too. I'm just adding some defining little moments here so that these have crisp edges and look a little more finished. Find that sometimes going in with a number 4 round and adding little deets doesn't hurt.
The details.
The little details keep us in the painting. And if you want to spend 3 or 4 hours in some details, you have every right to. No one should tell you not to. I might come in here in the water even and add some details. Like you do. And we're adding a little detail in the water. Fun stuff to do. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have these really cool trees over here and this really cool embankment, which I am super into. And honestly, I really want to get into these trees, so I hope you'll indulge me. And let's look at what we've got here. I'm going to start with black and brown just to sort of sketch them in, and then I'll get the embankment around them. We have a back tree kind of at the top of this, and it goes really right up very strongly. This is why I said at the beginning, do not put your heart and soul to the branches on the left, because we have some stuff to do here. And it is almost, you know, that strong of a trunk, right? And I'm just doing that in black. It's about a 1/2 inch wide. It's going off the canvas, you know. Then over here, and this one does a very strong and interesting thing. It comes up, it's at a curve, and comes down. Black and brown right now. Burnt sienna and Mars black. It's going to be narrow at the top and really to the edge of our stream here. I'm going to make sure that the trees that I plant also have their matching reflections in the water, so I'm not working so hard for it later, right? There we go. Just let that tree grow up. I'm using a number 8 cat's tongue. I'm on my toe. I will probably have to impose on John for water the next step or two. I've got one more clean cup.
No worries?
No worries, he says. He's right. There is no worries. Not wrong. Now, there is another big tree and then a tree tucked behind it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plant the big tree and then stick the tree that's behind it behind it. It kind of comes up here, bends forward, and it's going to go a little off canvas too. These are focal trees. You think it's the boat, but I think it's the trees. Your boat is focused because it's got blue and it's a contrasting color in this amazing forest, but, you know, for me, it was the trees that were the star of this show. This one, I'm just doing the major trunks. I'll add branches. I will. Right now, I just want to capture the major trunks because you can see right there that we've got a really nice little tree. And we're building those reflections coming in the water because water is mirror. And take a little of my yellow into my orange, and I'll get my brown into it because this tree, I might even get my black, is a much lighter tree. And it tucks between these two. And what's great is it creates this very light reflection here as well. And then it kind of comes back. It's got a bit that comes back. And this one gets a nice light front. I might as well kind of add that now because I know I've got it. I'm going to be playing with. There we go. There's blocking these in early, as you do. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my green and brown together and get that dark, dark green. That is going to be my embankment, and my grass is there. I'll paint this all in. Just the beginnings of that little embankment that works along those little trees. And maybe I actually will move this back a bit. I'll show you what I mean with a lighter color. So I'm going to move this little tree embankment maybe a little more over this way. And let this one come down. A little more like this. And I think this one maybe needs to be a little bigger. I'm going to make it a little bigger. And while I'm here, I'm going to think about my boat a little more now. I've got my white, so I can work on that. So I definitely want my boat to be here. You could use chalk if that was enjoyable for you. You know, if it's not enjoyable for you, don't worry about that. It's a nice little kind of angled upper bow.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a bit of a kind of like little lip. There's going to be this wonderful blue. What is this kind of wood called? Who's a boat person that can tell me what this? Because everything in a boat has a very specific name. This is what I've learned. Huh?
That is the outside of the boat.
Okay, on the outside of the boat, the blue finishing here. What is it called?
The top part of the boat.
You're so weird.
Well, that's what it is. It's the top part of the boat. I'm sure it has another proper name.
Bringing that out there. Kind of get that little bit out at the right. You know, like you do. Like this one has a distinctive little forward bit. And I love this because it's like comes here and then it's down and then it's got a little opening here. Getting that nice, thoughtful, more considered boat in the water at this stage. Just the more considered boat in the water. You know, just kind of thinking about how this is in the reflection. The boat will have a nice little reflection there. And there's this wonderful shadow we get to play with, and we get to play with the depth of the water here. All right, looking at my painting, I feel like I still have some light green I want to add. This yellow has green in it, but it also had a little bit of orange. I'm going to make sure that I take my little fan brush and give my bank a little light. Let's push the light up. Add a little white to it. Push, push, push. A little contrasting green. Okay. Just, you can put a little color anywhere, you might as well. And then also, because then I can come here. I can kind of, I'm going to turn this upside down so I can see it easier.
Okay.
Push down a little bit of that reflection, what's above it. I'm just going to wiggle this back and forth and diffuse a bit of that light.
Oh.
Fun?
Yeah.
I haven't even put the sparkling water on it yet. Where it's going to go, what? When the water gets sparkly, you're going to be like, what? What? And I'm like, I know, it's so good. Let's take a little bit of our brown and our darker orange. And make sure that we've got some neat kind of ground for the grass to peek up through. I'll also add some dark. Always good to add a little dark. Maybe there's a little stone right here.
Yeah?
Yeah. A little rock they happen.
Did a rock?
Rocks happen. Somebody did a geocache under it. And somebody off the canvas is looking so hard but can't locate it. Because they hit it right there. And the hint was about the boat, but they didn't get it. That's something that you get if you get, and if you don't get, you're like, I don't know what she's talking about. I'm doing little upward strokes just to kind of start to imply maybe what is the grass. Then I'm going to come here into the shoreline and also add some, let's get some yellow and green into it and orange, like that off. Just for a second. Okay. Let's get this as a step, and then we're going to come back and finish up these trees.
Okay.
Because we know where they are. We know where the water is. Once we know where they are, we're actually weirdly on the downward side of the painting, if you think of it as a hill.
Yeah, I know.
And when the finishing bit comes in, it's going to be so gorgeous. I love doing fall landscapes. I like doing landscapes. While we're doing this, let me give you an extra tip. So when you're doing a tree, you're doing branches. Let's really talk about doing the exercises that let you practice branches. So when you have a little tree branch and you come out here, if you have one that goes like that, you've got to pick a little spot where it comes out. The branch that attaches to it needs to be finer and smaller than what it's on. Sometimes branches are crooked and go unusual directions, and you want to think about that when you're making lots of little branches. How do they work? The only place I'd really want to put a branch here now is down here. See how we're creating that little elegant story of bits of something grown and dry. It's fun to do. I highly recommend it. I'm going to get into...
What? What shall you get into?
I'll start out with my cat's tongue, and then I might get a grass comb involved. Because I see a reason to bring it on. First, I'm going to get a little of my brown and black. And I want to create some real depth to the shading of this tree on this side, right? Mm-hmm. And then even over here where this branch is coming off, I'm going to make little short marks. I'm going to be shading that side of the branch. Even though this tree perfectly blocks the other tree, you know, we want to kind of see these things. I'm going to also maybe shade a little bit of this side of the tree. We're going to come back with a highlight, but it's worth it. Quite dark over here. And then on this one as well, we're getting our darks going, right? And they all have very rough bark. I have some leaves I have to put in before I can put in this guy's crazy branches. There's just some back stuff I have to do, but I can start to put in this one's crazy branches.
Okay.
I'm going to get a little black and brown again on my number 4 round. I drip some water. I'm going to attach it. I'm going to bring it over. I'm on my toe. Lighter pressure as I go out. See how that branch tapered off?
Mm-hmm.
How that happened. A very twisted little branch that this guy has. There's another little friend coming up here. Kind of broken there. Remember, some branches grow down. Kind of a weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have that in. I'm going to get, so this is a grass comb. This is a grainer. I'll go ahead and use the grainer. They're essentially a similar thing. They're a filbert that is like pieced. You know how like when a hairdresser does your bangs and they do the little piecey thing on your bangs? It's like that. If you can't buy one, you can get a good filbert and a little pair of hair scissors and do this yourself. Voids the warranty of the brush. I have told you, it voids the warranty of your brush. If that was a thing that was going to bother you in any way. Now you know, it voids the warranty of your brush. I'm going to take some brown and red over into my orange on my grainer. What's up, babe?
Nothing.
Oh, you were saying all right, and you were looking over expectantly. And I'm going to use little short up and down strokes to create little open areas of rough bark. See how I'm doing here? Let's paint it. Let's paint this rough bark. We've got it. You can do it. You can do it. Sometimes it may not feel like you can do it, but you can do it. I'm going to add a little yellow into my brush. You can see I'm getting a little like highlight. I'm going to do a weird thing. I'm going to add some yellow over by my orange just so that I have some more options for my color mixing. And I'm going to put out a little fresh white. And I've got some ultramarine blue, but I may want to put out some fresh blue. The reason I do these things is just so that I have convenience on my palette to get where I'm going. My paper is drying, and the reason it's drying is I didn't do my boiling technique on my paper today. I'll have to show you how I boil my paper palette sometime. Can I get warm coffee and a fresh water or two? Those are the last bit I want, bright colors. So I've got this here. That way if I want to come in and add a little yellow into that mix. Oh, darn it. It was too much water off the sprayer. It's okay. I'll work it out. Let's add a little highlight right here. And see, I'm using the grainer to create that rough bark. It's a little yellow with a little orange in it, just lightening it up. Sometimes I'll wipe off on a paper towel if an area is giving me too much trouble to get some control over it. Don't confuse the water. So you can see we're getting some highlight, some light onto our little tree. A little glow into that bark, which we want. We want to glow into that bark. Put that there. Put this aside for later. Clean water is a big deal in fall paintings. I'm going to get a little of my gray here. I haven't really rinsed my brush out. If you need a little more of your ultramarine blue in to continue the gray on, you can. This tree has more of a gray bark, and as you can see, I do like short little strokes. And look how much like the bark that looks like. That looks just like the bark, right? It's the little short strokes. This is a Princeton filbert grainer. The other one I have is a ruby satin silver by silver brush. I'm going to just continue making these little short strokes. I'm going to enjoy this, take time to enjoy it. And again, if you cannot get a filbert grainer, if it's not in the budget, you get a cheap filbert and you trim it up with scissors and you can get this similar effect. Just know it voids the warranty. If your brush head falls off, they won't fix it for you because they'll be like, you cut your brush up. And you'll be like, I know, but I had to because I needed a filbert grainer. There wasn't one available to me in my area, and so I found this brush and thought, I'm going to do it.
It happens.
Yeah, fun to see that tree come into being. I love doing that. Now this one here, I'm going to get back into my little yellow. It's got an interesting little spot of yellow right here. And then my little oranges to go around it. Brown. We're kind of creating a little bit of highlight, right? These are liner marks. I'll wipe off my brush, not rinse, wipe. Come back into what I've got going on here, maybe a little yellow. This tree's got quite a lot of light on it, and I want to make a nice, it's the bark is a little grayed out. And a little orange there. Get into that. So like sometimes I get into my red and brown. Weird like red bark at the bottom. Sort of interesting. I'll come into my black there, blend that in. If I have to wipe off, I will.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll add black in to break up and piece out the bark.
To peace out.
Peace out. Peace out. So black. I'm having fun.
It's looking so good.
Are you having fun too? This is a more involved painting. I need to do some one hoots for the channel again. Some easy peasy lemon squeezies.
Mm.
Oh, and then I'm going to get into my docks purple. And you're like, what? I'm like, I know. You thought it was just there for the leaves at the end? No, it's also for this tree. You're like, I didn't know why it was there. I'm very new to painting. You didn't tell me at the beginning. That's all right. We're just making short little strokes. See how that's working for us?
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting highlights. We're showing the difference between the trees using value, using color. We've got nice little, I'm going to add a little purple in there, and I'm going to come along here and use this to kind of create a few little highlights on the branch, like you do. Rough bark, like you do. Now there's some real highlights in the middle of this tree. I'm going to make sure I get them, and they're kind of a purpley blue. Add a little highlight right here. Look at that go. That tree's having a moment, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have to wipe off there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't mind. And then maybe a little yellow. Gotta get some white into it. I will. 'Cause I need the highlights. I need the values. This tree is so colorful.
Mm-hmm.
Don't underestimate how colorful your tree can be. And compress in and also create some interesting little bark texture that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When I have all that in, and those are some nice trees that are happening, right? I can come in and get a little of my grass, which is my burnt sienna, a little of my phthalo green and cad yellow. Get a little white into it if I need to. Some light blades. You know, just run around and make sure that what you paint is reflected, right?
Mm-hmm.
All it is. Guess what?
What?
I have to do all that to those bottom trunks.
Do you?
Or at least some of it, right? Because water is a mirror.
That'll make it look all. This is gonna be such a pretty painting.
It really is. And we're going to be so proud of ourselves because we got through it. And it was like a journey.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of just working it out. Colors that I have up on these upper trunks need to be in these reflections. You just do. You need to be here. So just dancing around, just paying attention to, you know, what I did for myself. And, you know, if I did something somewhere, I'm going to try to make sure that I've got it here.
Mm-hmm. I love the little reflections. Are looking so nice.
Aren't they looking nice? I'm going to take a little bit of my. I'm going to make sure that these leaves I know I've got coming, and I know they're coming, right, are here kind of in the water a little bit.
Yep.
Because we know we're going to have them. And I've got this little brush right now. I've got to put it in.
Gotta do it.
And I do. I do. Water is a mirror. And the water is looking pretty good, and it's a pretty nice mirror, for sure. And I like it. Darken these up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're reflected in the water. And you know what?
What's
I
that?
wish I could say we were done, but we've got to put in some leaves, and then we'll come back and put in some forward branches. So let's do that in this next step.
Okay.
So we've got 2 more steps in the trees, and then we're just down to boat and water. So we're getting there. Getting there. And I need a warm coffee again because I paint for so long, my coffee gets cold. Let me show you some of these strokes that I was doing that maybe were hard to see on the tree. So you can see it's about getting little short touches and letting the brush create a very rough texture. I can go on the side or I can go on the front. All right. Hopefully you guys are holding up okay. It is okay to need to pause me and take a break. Deborah Evans, I want to say thank you so much for Super Chat. Patty, Oreo has a question. Is Twix a left Twix or a right Twix? Well, the community voted, and she's a right Twix. When we got her when she was a puppy, we put that up as a poll, and so she was officially a right Twix. And then Mary Myers, I'm wondering, do you all you artists think too much when you're painting? I paint, and the way I think slows me down. So I'm wondering if what you're saying is like, is it that you kind of get into a meditative state and you're not thinking and you're letting yourself relax, or is your brain going, and you're not allowing yourself to fall into that artistic and meditative state? That would be the question. So you should be getting into kind of a, I'm not, because I got to teach it. But you guys at home should be giving yourself the space to just relax into what you're doing and allow yourself to flow into the creativity. Easier said than done, because you're probably being critical of yourselves and be like, that isn't the way a branch is supposed to be. But if you can, the goal is to try to be like, enjoying the noise of the brush. What noise does the brush make? And enjoy the way the brush is laying down paint. Really just kind of feel the way that paint is going down. Observe your reference, put your paint down, and try as you can to breathe. Don't hold your breath, don't hold tension in your body, and just like kind of let it go. Sometimes you might need to put on music in your studio, do a little aromatherapy. You might need to take some extra steps to create that space to say it's okay for me to put down all the stuff that I'm working on right now and just be here. It can be hard to do. Tanya April says, is there an easy way to clean a palette after paint has dried? If you have a plastic palette and you used acrylic paint and it dried on there, you can try to do an alcohol soak, but really you shouldn't use a plastic palette. If you've got a glass palette, warm water and a razor blade will take it off. Don't use the frame. Don't use the glass from an old frame or picture. Super dangerous. If you've got these, you can rinse them off and reuse them. But be sure to scrape off the extra paint and let that dry so that you're not, or do a crash solids. So all of that is good. Those are great questions. I love your questions, guys. You have good questions. Guess what we have to do? More leaves.
Yeah.
Cheap brush, constantly check for those hairs because they will perpetually be coming for you. So I'm going to take a little of my cad red, maybe even a little magenta, and I might even get a little diox in there. So dark. I'm not wanting a bunch of different colors so you can see the mix. I may pinch. I will use my fingers to shape a brush where necessary. I know. Seems impossible, but I will.
I'm going to adjust that over just a little bit. Hold on a second.
I'm going to bring just a few of these leaves in front of that tree.
There we go.
You want to leave open spaces. It's important. Right? I'm going to come here. See how I'm pinching to shape?
Mm-hmm.
That way I can get the effect, but I'm not dealing with, having to make every little leaf. I'm going to load in some orange now. Come to the top of what we have here. Capture just the top, right? Because If you go underneath, you'll lose all the value that's creating the shape of your leaf. Hopefully at this point you are pretty excited about what you're seeing. And you're going to look at those cheap brushes with a little more interest. You're like, potentially, you might be interesting for me.
Potentially.
I'm going to rinse this out a little bit because I want one that gives me a little more control. So I'm going to grab this little fellow here, but back into my dark, okay?
Okay.
Let's come up over that one there. Just make sure that we are giving ourselves some different dimensionality. Little yellow there. Touches. You want depth. Need more depth. Come in and add a little purple. If I need to, I can get on the corner and make that an uneven little line. You lost depth, that's how you would get it back. Right? Put it back. The deep shadows. So not too much fix, okay? Treat it like in cooking. If you were cooking with ghost peppers, be gentle with it. Oh, I really like those little leaves going out, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Just a kiss of little light. What does the light say? In my garden, where I paint, I want to make sure that the light touches my leaves. There we go. Putting a little of that out there, right?
Whoops. I was looking over here at the chat. Getting down there in the reflections.
So nice.
It is.
So nice. Now I do still want my extra, well, man, this looks pretty good. But I'm going to go ahead and give myself my branches.
All right.
So I'm going to take my ultramarine blue and my Mars black and a little burnt sienna. And I'm going to come here and give myself my extra little branches. See how we can do. It just doesn't have to be every branch, but you can layer up one. The other thing I can do is come in and get a little of my sky color. Make sure there isn't a hidden drop on your brush. It was lighter than that. You can pop in a little peak of the sky color. Little touches. It's a drama thing you can do.
Yeah.
If you lost too much of your sky, you put it back and it peeks through these branches and it goes, what? Because blue will always make it interesting, right? Blue and orange will always play against each other. Well, I know that I've got to do a little of my gray. And I'll come here to the top of this branch. And I will make sure
Get the highlights in there.
yeah. I'm going to just, make sure that it's got just enough light on it so we can see it. And if you've got to come down with a little highlight for the little lower branch, so you can see it, you can do that too. You can add little stories there. And then blend up that bark into the tree above it.
Oh, yeah.
And perhaps there's a little hint of it in the water reflection. Not too much, just there enough to be like, maybe. I'm not sure. You've got some great water reflection starting to go, and you've got some interesting bits, but we have some final touches to our water reflection. I'm going to get my white. I have some yellow gets into it.
Oh.
And it's got a little green, and I'm going to wiggle it along and pull it out. Try to pull it out straight. I am not. Sometimes I'll turn my canvas so I can have a better brush stroke. Something that just kind of gets me through. I still want it a little more green than what I've got. The trick will be just not getting off of the axis that I'm trying to be on. And come here and I can also do this with my grass brush, believe it or not. There's a bit of a touch and a back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the water is sparkling. Sometimes you just touch and then sometimes it sparkles, in another way. I had a little blue in there, but mostly white. And again, depending on where you're confident, you can do your grass comb, or
Oh, there you go. You're getting so close to doing the last part of the boat.
I know, we're just almost done. I'm almost sad to see everybody go.
Mm-hmm.
Adding a little highlight in
Just
that
around the
corner
corner.
there. Sometimes you'll do that. You'll be like, oh, I'm just going to do a little highlight.
Now, do you keep the fan heavily loaded or lightly loaded?
Lightly loaded. Let's look at that load.
Lightly
I'm going to come in
loaded.
here and just sort of load it up. You can see it's just a kiss on the edge, isn't it? You're using my fan, the Art Sherpa fan. You're using a Hog fan. Maybe you got the Simply Simmons on sale. You know, I know there were some big sales recently in brushes. I'm going to turn to the side, but weirdly, I'm doing that just so I can keep my stuff level. You can see sometimes I wiggle and kind of bring back and mimic that water effect.
Mm.
And look at that. If I did that well, I should have that kind of feeling of water that's sparkling.
Yeah, it really does.
A little bit of sparkling water.
It's very sparkly.
Right? And it does. It's a good day. Right? So the water will be sparkling. And now I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to have a very light line. It's not going to be completely white. I'm going to add a little bit of a shoreline reflection. Now here it'll be heavier because of course the water is churning.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a little heavier there. I'm going to take a little of my black and blue, very thinned, transparent even. You can lose the glazing medium as well here. I'm just going to use my finger and a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to deepen along my shoreline and kind of coming out. So it's leaving a lot of the color underneath showing through. Right? But I'm just making sure that it's darker. See how I did there?
Yeah.
Isn't that nice? That looks good. All right. We're going to get there. Now we get to do the boat.
The boat.
Boat. You guys kind of like, what? I know. It's super fun, isn't it? Just a wonderful fall park. I hope you're happy with this. I hope the lesson is bringing you joy. I hope your painting is bringing you joy. What size was my grass brush? So I have a lot of these, but the ones I find that I use the most often are the 1/2 inch. This is a 3/8 inch, and I really like the 1/4 inch. I imagine an inch would probably be good. I would have just all the brushes. I really like them. They are called a grainer or grass comb. There is a minor difference between a grainer and a grass comb, kind of in style, and honestly between brush lines. This is the Princeton, this is the Ruby Satin, but you can see that, you know, it's just about these edges being pieced out. It's so different than this, right? Which just, this makes very specific lines that are evenly distributed, and I don't really like that as much. And you know, I have this one here. There is a crystal version of it, and then I also have some Simply Simmons versions of it. So I found these in a bunch of different, but you could really easily make your own, and I have. And it's just, you might not know that. And now you do. So hopefully that is helpful for you. How are you doing? Deep breath. You're doing great. We're still here together. Yeah. But we're almost done. Maybe a little bit of my blue and green and black. I'm going to make kind of a dark color. And I think I'm going to... I'm going to add maybe just a little bit of shadow coming back on my trees.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit.
Wow, I'm just so impressed by this.
Sometimes it's important just to create some depth. So we can see them and they have highlights and shadows. Little weird touches, I swear, can make the biggest difference. All right, let's make a gray.
All
Let's
right.
go in with our ultramarine blue and our Mars black and even a little of our burnt sienna. And I'm taking my number 4 round. I'm painting the white part of my boat initially gray. Initially gray. I'm also going to paint the reflection initially gray. Initially. Just getting that in. Close to the boat, I'm going to go definitely deeper black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Under this part of the boat, I'm going to cast a very dark shadow. I'm going to go black here. I will highlight with blue, but initially I'm going to want it to be black. Initially. Put out a little more ultramarine blue near our phthalo blue. And we'll work these two together to create the look of the blue around the boat. This will help the boat really become the focus of the painting. This blue is going to make it. I'll show you how to age and patina everything, but we've got to initially get our basic colors on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with just that. Again, number 4. Mix the phthalo blue and ultramarine blue. I really like this boat. Maybe this is a famous boat. Like, I don't live in New York City, and it might be a famous boat. I don't know where this park even is.
I don't either.
Right, so it might be a very famous boat. And if you know it is, please feel it free like you can share in the comments. I'm going to come paint the edge of this. Right? This initially is just roughing it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now a little bit we see that reflection in the water. A little bit. Just roughed in. Doesn't got to be perfect. It has to be plotted.
Wow.
All right, let's take a picture.
Okay. Just gotta do a quick dry there to make sure that we get that.
You guys understand what the boat has to be before we start painting all the little, yeah, the little patina, the little aging of the wood. We're going to be back into our grainer. You could use a hog brush, or if I didn't have my grainer, honestly, I would get. This is again another one of those art mines. This is a terrible brush, and it's perfect for patinas. Right, this thing, perfect for it. It's just a hot mess. Just wash it first. So it again, Getting a expensive brush, it's great. It's wonderful if you need to do that. But if you can't, don't think that you can't do these types of paintings. You can. They're doable for sure. All right. So, and actually, I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to begin here. I'll get some of my white, and I'm using that inexpensive brush. I have not gotten it wet. This is an Art Minds. I don't know. It says 1/8 inch something. I don't know. It came in a pack. Look at that. That's our nice rough patina, isn't it? I'm going to kind of reset the bow of my boat here. But again, rough patinas are something we can come by no matter what brush we have. We are not stuck. We are not trapped. We are okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring this more down. There we go. I just got a little bit too much to a leftward angle. The side of the boat over here will be lighter. Look already. Looking like a boat.
Looking like a boat.
Looking like a boat. That's what they do. They look like a boat. Boat looking boat.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a gray going here. Lighter than everything else. I'm using my number 4 and I'm letting it sort of dry brush. And I'm just making sure that what's in the water is kind of the same. Now, it will be a shade darker in the water than it is up top.
Mm-hmm.
Shade darker. A little black and blue. I'm going to come in and kind of make sure. Same glaze here. Might get a little brown. A little ultramarine and just go around here and kind of shade in a little bit. The inside, it's very light. It's like just a little bit of color, right?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of a highlight across. Highlight up top.
Wow.
Highlight up top. It's still blue. Come in with a little blue here. Just make sure that I've got a little bit of shading.
The reflections are always a little dimmer than the.
Yeah, it should be. We're gonna come in and we're gonna darken this and kind of push all that into the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
A little white. Now it does have a bit of a highlight on the top of the boat here, but it's a little trimmer, and I may have to come back and trim it a bit. All right, a little blue. More blue than that. I'll have to come put some shadow back, but I got to brighten some of this a bit. I'll be back with the shadow in a second. Too bright. Now, I'm going to rinse out.
Mm-hmm.
This is my ultramarine.
So close.
We're so close. You guys still hanging with me?
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Got a little black here. A little bit of that shadow, like that little shape there. Back to crazy brush.
All right.
All right, crazy brush. We like the crazy brush.
Mm-hmm.
It's just rough. What I'm looking for is a very rough affectation
Mm-hmm.
in the brush. I want the boat to look rough. Just a little bit of a bright. Maybe a smidge of one here.
Mm.
Okay, just a smidge.
Wow, that boat's looking so good.
Coming on this side with my number 4 round. A little bit lighter. A little bit lighter there too. Very light. Very light blue. I've got to trim in my reflection here. And the reason is that because it's slimmer on the boat.
Mm-hmm. Wow, this is looking really good.
A little bit of white and blue over here.
Mm-hmm.
Just to be brighter. I'm going to raise that line. making sure we get a nice little boat line.
Mm-hmm.
Little black here. A bit of a shadow.
It's looking so nice.
A little bit of shadow under the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can put a little bit of a, there's a bit of a badging here.
Yeah.
And put in a little bit of badging.
Gonna have your reflected in the water.
A little bit reflected in the water, isn't it? A little bit reflected in the water. Now mine is, I need less water. Take a little black hair and just sort of give that shading.
Mm-hmm.
I'll use the same. Okay, so then the first thing I'm going to do with that glazing medium we talked about, didn't really have to use it today, but I'm going to use it here.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Use a little of my ultramarine. It's okay if it goes a little with a little black. We're just dimming it. Sometimes if the painting underneath gets a little too bright, this is a good way to knock it back and help what's up top be brighter while what's underneath is, you know, if you want to lighten things in the back, you can come in and be like, you know, if you ever want to push anything back. It's an alternative to zinc. Like if I wanted things to be lighter and pushed back, that would be something that I could do. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Using my grass comb. I just want this to be a little lighter and pushed back. And that is what my zinc is for.
It is.
I'll yellow this out just a bit. Sometimes value is a big deal, and I will find myself like trying to improve value a bit. So see how that helps those trees come forward and pushes those back a little bit? Like if they're coming too far forward, you've got those options. You are there. All we have left to do is a little reflection. Same hog brush, because that's what I was doing the whole thing with. Same load. And then 2 leaves, perhaps, on the water.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they fell.
Is this free floating boat or is it moored in by a rope?
I have no idea because I can't see the back of the boat.
The floaty boat. Could be. If you wanted yours to be tied to the shore, you could add a rope.
Yeah, it'd be a long rope, but you could. I might.
Maybe it's anchored. And
Yeah.
Maybe it's anchored on the other side, and you just can't see.
I can't see the back of the boat.
You can't see where the anchor is.
And I don't know anything about boats, so I don't know if this is a bad boat owner. But sometimes it's nice to just add a little bit of light there and make it a little bit special, in some kind of way. Like, little light faraway leaves, perhaps. I'm happy. Guys, we did it. It was a big painting, but we did it. We got through it. We learned about it. We did different things. We changed our minds. You will have your own journey through. You learned a lot of techniques about painting in a landscape. I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I feel you learned a lot.
You have.
I'm going to go ahead and take my ultramarine blue and a little of my fluid white. And I'm going to come here and do a little signature. I cannot wait to see yours. I think that's going to be super exciting to see. You can share online, in group, on Facebook, on the website, on Pinterest, on Instagram. Be sure and follow me on Instagram if you're on Instagram. And you want to I do different weird things that are unique to Instagram. So it's kind of nice to go over there. We do reels, and sometimes you see sneak peek, or sometimes you see a painting in its development stages and a little kind of playthrough, or you get to see the finished painting. You can share it with me over there. It's a good place to go. Pinterest, same thing. Be sure you're following me on Pinterest. You can follow me on Twitter. I do tweet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not dramatic enough to be great at Twitter, so I don't really start fights with anybody and then say something crazy and gets me canceled every 2 minutes. I just kind of share art. And also weirdly on TikTok now. So places to find me. Facebook, as always. If you watched on Facebook, thank you so much. Be sure and follow the page. If you watched on YouTube, hit subscribe. And if you haven't checked the page in a while and you're here now, make sure you're still subscribed. Remember, sometimes YouTube decides you didn't mean it and they unsubscribe you. So go ahead and check that your little bell was rung and that you've done all those things. We have classes 2 to 3 times a week coming up, sometimes more. So if you're wanting to learn how to paint and you need it to be for free, this is the place for you.
It is.
We're doing that.
Oh, man, this was so much fun.
It was a lot of fun. I really want to thank you guys for your time. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.